In today's Black Clover video, we show you irrefutable evidence that Yami has been using Lucifugus Dark Magic ever since he received his Grimoire. This makes Yami just like Asta. Both of them had no magic before they received their Grimoire. After they received it, they received the magic from the underworld. This is confirmed. And both should not have received their Grimoire in the first place, but received it anyway. Asta because there is a 5-leaf clover and humans are not normally allowed to receive such a Grimoire. And Yami because foreigners should not be able to receive Grimoires because of how the Grimoire Tower works. We show you clear similarities between Yami's and Lucifugus magic. And as if that wasn't enough, we also show you evidence in Demonology that Lucifugus actually uses dark magic and has his own Grimoire, which he gave Yami. I guarantee you that you won't be able to deny this theory after you finish this video. You don't believe me? Let's bet. Comment at the end of the video if we convinced you. And as always, only a small percentage of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video. Let's go! As we all know, Yami's dark magic is a magic ability that no one has ever seen before and is literally unique to Yami, at least in the living world. Morris in fact has described Yami's magic as magic from the underworld, so it is not magic that a human could normally obtain. The fact that Yami uses underworld magic is a big hint that he simply must be in contact with the devil, especially now after the Qliphoth ritual. In order to create the Qliphoth, a connection must be made between the living world and the underworld. This connection was then made with the help of magic. It seems logical that a magic from the living world and a magic from the underworld will be needed to make this connection. So it makes sense why dark magic was relevant for this purpose and why Lucifugus might have somehow made his magic available to Yami. I will explain how he might have done that in a moment. Let's start with Yami's past. Yami is a foreigner from Hino, the land of the rising sun. This country seems fundamentally different from what we have seen on the continent of the Four Kingdoms, especially when it comes to combat. They use a unique sword known as katana, while the concept of ki supports them. Of course ki is very helpful, but the fact that they use ki as the main focus in combat makes it seem like they actually depend on this concept because they might not be able to use magic. In fact, we've never heard anything about magic or mana in the context of the Hino land. Yami has never mentioned anything like that, and he talks a lot about his land and culture if you think about it. This raises the question of whether people in the land of the rising sun are even capable of using magic. It may sound ridiculous, but you have to remember that people have proven that they can steal magic. For example, what the royals did to the elves. And we can't ignore that most likely all 4 elemental spirits are in the continent of the Four Kingdoms, and also the triad, the Qliphoth, the Shadow Palace, and so many magic things. If the whole world used magic, elemental spirits would probably be everywhere. But that is simply not the case. There could be a reason why the people on this continent use magic, which will then explain why the people from Yami's homeland do not. But back to Yami's past. When Yami arrived in the Clover Kingdom, no one ever talked about anything like dark magic until Yami received his Grimoire. And even Julius only noticed Yami when he could actually use dark magic, so it seems that Yami received his magic only after he received his Grimoire. Which of course then leads directly to the next question of how and why Yami received the Clover Grimoire in the first place. That shouldn't be possible. Yuno could have received the Clover Grimoire because his 4-leaf Grimoire is connected to the elven soul within him and his human soul received his Spade Kingdom Grimoire, according to the rules of how people receive Grimoires. But Yami should never have received the Clover Grimoire. This was clearly emphasized in the manga when all the citizens were confused that a foreigner could receive a Grimoire, and with magic that no one had ever seen before. We know that Yami was shipwrecked when he was very young. It looks like he spent at least 2-3 years in the Clover Kingdom before he received his Grimoire. Because when Julius found him, Yami was already able to speak the language more or less. So the time he has already lived in the Clover Kingdom should have been enough to let people know that there is someone with dark magic. Especially if we consider how much trouble Yami has caused, being the leader of a criminal group that does bad things every day. But then no one noticed that Yami had dark magic? This makes it pretty obvious that Yami just didn't have dark magic during his criminal time. At the very least, his entire group should have known about the dark magic. But no, literally no one ever heard about it until Yami received his Grimoire. If we look at the panel of Sad Day, we see Yami releasing his dark magic and looking at the magic in great surprise, as if he didn't know he himself was capable of using such magic, almost as if this isn't his magic or he didn't even know he could use magic at all. So if Yami's homeland really doesn't use magic for whatever reason, then Yami will theoretically be just like Asta, who only got his magic after he got a grimoire that wasn't really his, and with which he could then use a power from the underworld that came from a devil. And if we compare that with Yami, then we know that it is also confirmed that Yami uses a power from the underworld. And just like Asta, Yami could use his magic only after he received his grimoire. So if Asta's grimoire is not really his, then due to the fact that Yami should not have received a grimoire from the Clover Kingdom either, it could mean that the grimoire he uses is not his. The only difference is that Asta's anti-magic is proven to be from a devil called Liebe, while the origin of Yami's dark magic is unknown. It is definitely from the underworld though, as Morris confirmed when he said that the power of the underworld resides in dark magic. We just don't know where it comes from or rather from which devil. The only two devils whose magic we don't know yet are Dramelech and Lucifugus. There are a few other devils that have not been revealed yet, but that doesn't matter because Lucifugus actually has a very similar magic ability to Yami, so we can assume that it could be Lucifugus Dark Magic. The biggest similarity is the same color, the same way the magic moves, its shape and pattern. Literally everything about the way it appears is the same, there's no doubt about that. But apart of the physical similarity, the properties are also very similar. When Nacht summoned Lucifugus, he was able to bypass the magic of the ritual, almost as if he had absorbed the magic, just as Yami can absorb other people's magic with his dark magic black hole. But that's not all. Lucifugus has shown another ability, that of freezing other people so that they can no longer move. We saw this with Nacht's parents and all the people around them, and also with Nacht himself, who could no longer move. He said, "My body doesn't want to move." Of course, now you can say it's because of fear. But come on, why would you say it's because of fear just to destroy this great connection? I know we have a bed here, but don't try hard. No, but for real, of course, it could be because of fear. But in my opinion, with all the other clues that fit so perfectly, we can't ignore the possibility that it's the same ability that Yami uses against Patri. First, Yami absorbed Patri's magic, just like Lucifugus could cancel out ritual magic. But then Patri was also unable to move, just as was the case with Nacht when he summoned Lucifugus. Was Patri afraid? I don't think so. And if that didn't convince you, let's see what Demonology says about all this. Lucifugus is another name of the demon Lucifuge. This devil is mainly mentioned and described in the Grand Grimoire, also called the Book of Lucifugus. So Lucifugus has a grimoire named after him in Demonology, or even a grimoire that belongs to him, depending on which interpretation you believe in. The Grand Grimoire is a grimoire of black magic, and black is dark, obviously. This grimoire is significant mainly because it contains a special pact between a mage and Lucifugus. If you have this book, you can use Lucifugus magic. This is because it makes a pact between you and Lucifugus, without making a pact directly, as is the case with the devil binding ritual. So the question is, could Yami's grimoire be a reference to the Grand Grimoire of Demonology? The idea is that Yami has this grimoire and therefore can use Lucifugus magic as mentioned in Demonology, because Lucifugus signed the grimoire and allows anyone who uses the grimoire to use his dark magic from the underworld. That something is suspicious about Yami's grimoire is confirmed by the fact when Raya touched Yami's grimoire, he said that Yami's grimoire has a strange pattern. Tabata was trying to tell us that there is something strange about Yami's grimoire, so we need to keep an eye on it. And here I would like to point out something very interesting. In order to predict a manga, we must always consider the creator's thought. So think like Tabata to understand what he's doing. And in that arc, when Raya said that Yami's grimoire is strange, a lot was revealed that we are now using for this theory. Is that a coincidence? Okay, listen. That was in the same arc that the Hino country was revealed and its relationship with Ki, the katana, that Yami was shipwrecked, and the whole criminal organization thing, the language, and so on. And also that Yami then literally used the same abilities as Lucifugus. In that arc, he even said that he didn't know anyone who uses light magic, when in fact he knew that Morgan used light magic. What Yami meant by that was that he doesn't know anyone who uses light magic who is still alive. And again, the light magic is a connection to the whole incident with Lucifugus and Nacht's brother Morgan. So Tabata used this arc to build a connection between Yami and Lucifugus. He even had Yami say a very strange phrase. Something was about to awaken in me, as if Yami has a secret power. By the way, Yami also started calling Asta's magic and talent creepy and weird in this arc, while everyone else is calling Yami's magic the same, almost as if both magical abilities are creepy and weird. Maybe because they have a similar origin. Both came from the underworld. Hashtag you convinced me if I have already convinced you at this point. Before my partner continues this Black Clover theory, please take a moment to leave a like and make sure to check our second channel where we upload all kind of funny videos like reactions. It's hilarious. Thank you.
So, back to the idea that Yami's Grimoire is the Grand Grimoire from Demonology, the Grimoire of the Devil, Lucifugus. Lucifugus promises to be kind to those who are in possession of a certain book that bears his true signature. This in turn may indicate that Lucifugus altered the Grimoire in Black Clover with his signature, and then left that Grimoire in the human world for someone to obtain one day. The reason why he would do that is obviously because he wants to be present in the human world. That is the point of all relics and devil pacts and possessions. Anything that helps people use the devil's magic is mostly created by the devils, because that's the only way the devils can escape the underworld, with the help of humans. Maybe there are ways to escape without human help, but it is obviously very difficult, nearly impossible. Considering that dark magic is required to create the Qliphoth tree, it becomes clear why Lucifugus might have an interest in passing on his own magic to a human, so that it can one day be used as a source for the Qliphoth ritual. And there are many more references to Lucifugus' Grimoire in Demonology. For example, as mentioned before, it's a Grimoire with black magic, and black is dark. But we have to keep in mind that the reason it's called black magic in Demonology is different from why it's called dark magic in Black Clover. But there is still a connection. Black magic is considered evil in Demonology, just as all citizens of the Clover Kingdom talk about Yami's magic. Moreover, Lucifugus is called the living darkness. In other writings, even the spirit of darkness, or the Lord of Darkness, or the Devil of Darkness, the Demon of Darkness, Dark Devil, Dark Demon. Hashtag darkness in the comments right now if that convinced you. So, if Lucifugus is a Lord of Darkness, why would we assume that Lucifugus would use any magic other than dark magic in Black Clover, when we already have so much evidence that his magic is similar to Yami's and Yami uses dark magic? So maybe Yami really is using Lucifugus' magic because he is using the Grimoire that Lucifugus signed. However, everything we have mentioned does not mean that Yami is possessed by Lucifugus, because before Asta performed the devil binding ritual, he was not possessed by a devil either and could still use anti-magic. But if our theory is correct, then there must still be a connection between Yami and Lucifugus. And here we cannot ignore the fact that Yami suddenly seems to have something like a devil's heart. If we assume that Yami was connected to the Qliphoth tree, which is also connected to the underworld, then Yami was also connected to the underworld, which could then explain his devil heart. If we assume that Lucifugus managed to do something to Yami's body to possess him later, you see, everything makes sense. But of course we know, you're probably wondering why Yami never showed any signs of devil magic, like Asta for example, the cursed wag or the devil marks. You have to keep in mind that Asta used anti-magic with his swords, which did not cause horns to appear. Only when the Witch Queen triggered something in Asta that caused Liebe's anti-magic to fill his body was Asta able to make the connection with Liebe that caused the first devil transformation. Or rather, only from that moment on was this transformation possible. However, Yami refuses to use dark magic with his body, mainly because it would probably slow down his body, since dark magic is an extremely slow magic. This is the reason why Yami uses his katana for his dark magic, and thus could be the reason why Yami never received the cursed wag. Did you notice both Yami and Asta use their magic with their sword? Another similarity. If they do this, neither will have any effects of the devil's magic on their bodies. So if Yami were to use dark magic like Asta does in his devil form, Yami would probably get the cursed wag as well as the devil marks. Of course, only if our theory about his dark magic is correct. To do this, something must happen to his body that is comparable to what the Witch Queen did to Asta. By this, I mean that Yami needs a trigger for the very first transformation. So it is likely that Yami's dark magic could never reach its true potential in his normal human body before the Qliphoth ritual. And this is where the Qliphoth comes in. The ritual has changed Yami's entire body, which is suddenly filled with magic, just as Gray described. If Yami received a new devil heart, he should have been able to use a new magic, which would have been the magic Gray noticed. But Yami didn't use any magic other than dark magic, which suggests that the magic in Yami's body was dark magic, with the difference that his body suddenly produces much more. And thus, it is further evidence that whatever happened to Yami's body must also have something to do with dark magic, and thus possibly with Lucifugus. Perhaps his body has changed due to his connection with the Qliphoth tree, adapting to his underworld magic, which may have resulted in his ability ability to generate more dark magic now than before in a simple human body. When we saw this chart showing who has the most magic in the world of Black Clover, we saw the peasants at the bottom, followed closely by the commoners, and then the nobles and royals at the top, surpassed only by the elves. But above the elves, we saw a high-ranking devil, Zogratis, suggesting that high-ranking devils have the ability to use more mana and thus more powerful magic. In this chart, Yami, despite of being a foreigner and a simple fisherman, so basically a peasant, was still on par with the royals, a little below them or a little above the nobles. Whatever suits you best. The point is that this is simply impossible unless Yami's homeland has mana. The reason Yami's mana capacity could be like a royal's could be because the devils have the highest mana capacity of all creatures. So if he has a bit of Lucifugus' mana, then it's obvious why he has so much mana within him. So it could be that Tabata did this on purpose to show us once again how much mana Yami has, hinting at the possibility that he might be using devil magic. Otherwise, why was it necessary to include Yami in this chart? So after Yami received the devil heart, it makes sense that his body is now better suited to use dark magic than before. And this is where the fact that dark magic is the slowest magic comes into play. Without his katana, Yami was unable to use the dark magic effectively. But now that his body has changed, he may be able to use dark magic to its fullest, which then opens up many new possibilities, such as the devil form we mentioned earlier. That's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.